Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
I'm Uncle Dan.
I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields.
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you better make the most of it.
Guys,
I see you.
I know.
What?
I see you.
Who is this bearded man who has ventured into our lair?
Can you believe it? It's the Devil's Triangle.
It is.
Here we are again.
I don't think that's what that phrase means.
First time since June
I think since July
that we've been in the same room.
Yeah.
This is a rare treat to have our expat.
Yes.
Uncle Mark was
Uncle
deported
Mark.
from Canada.
Yes, I'm on an extended deployment in Canada, but I'm home for the holiday and with all that entails.
There's no place like home. Yeah, for an uncle. Yeah.
And what a show we have.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. I am going to discuss the toxic confluence of Christian bigotry and breakfast juice. Yeah.
And maybe desserts. You never know.
Yes, and there will be dessert.
And I am going to take us on a tour through some of the dumbest red letters in the Bible.
That is a high bar. And then I am going to have a little discussion about when, if, and how you should intervene in confrontation.
On a very special How to Heretic.
On a very
Yeah.
special.
We're going to learn a little something about ourselves. And I think we should take a moment to acknowledge our very small part in something very big and congratulate and thank all of our listeners and everyone else who participated in this. But the final tally for Vulgarity for Charity 2019 with our friends at Scathing Atheist and at Cognitive Dissonance was $272,948
Holy Jesus. That
raised
is-
for modest needs. So
Fantastic.
fuck yeah.
So literally,
atheists.
neither of those shows have any airtime devoted to anything
For a year.
but doing roasts for a long time. So,
Yeah.
That's really cool.
that's funny for them, and I assume that it was mostly our signal boost.
I
that
feel
got
like it
them
was
there.
mostly us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there were almost 1,100 roasts requested.
Holy shit.
It is going to take them the rest of the year to do that. So, and to anybody who wanted us to be involved, we got those emails. We're just waiting to kind of get back into matriculation. There,
And also, just so that you know, since their shows now suck for the rest of the year, just stick with us.
All the more reason to listen to us.
We will entertain you.
We
in
are
the
funny
meantime.
where they are not.
let's do a show.
Uncle Dan.
Hey, Uncle Doug.
How are we doing?
Oh man, you know it's been I'm thankful.
Good.
It was a thankful time,
Yeah.
and now we got to talk about something.
We got to talk about something, and I'm racking my brain for a clever intro, but I can't think of one. So, Uncle Mark.
Uncle Mark, do a clever intro right now. Go.
Hey, well, maybe you guys don't know as much as I thought you might have about this particular topic. So
I don't know anything.
I think that could be applied to me. About
I think
any
you will.
topic.
I think when I get through it, you'll be like, oh yeah.
Okay.
So let's do that. So
Great.
You know how our examination of every flavor and stink of religion generally has us talking about really awful people, and how stories about awful people very often end up being real bummers, like when Doug talked about the Mormon murders and stuff like that.
Doug,
You're welcome.
Well, what if I told you I have a story about a truly awful person, but despite their awfulness, it's got a feel-good ending?
Oh.
And what if I told you there's also pie?
oh,
How about that?
I'm excited.
How about that?
Tis the season for pie.
Yeah, and this was we should celebrate this anniversary with pie every year because it's kind of a wonderful thing. So I think you two would agree with me that in addition to its many crimes and sins, what we three really despise the most about religion is its constant assaults on the rights of non-believers or just anyone else living their own lives by their own dictates and having the unbelievable audacity not to live in accordance with the demands of some random Christian somewhere, right?
Nope. For me, it's just boring.
Yeah. Well, the two of Doug and I hate that part. So
Okay.
but we live in Utah, so
Two votes.
Who's the real idiot here? So A perfect example of one such Christian busybody and moral scold was Miss Oklahoma in 1958,
Oh.
who had a number 5 song on the Billboard charts called Paper Roses in 1960,
Oh.
was the spokesmodel for Florida orange juice until she fucked that up, and was such a vicious anti-gay bigot that Ronald fucking Reagan opposed her.
Wow.
How about that?
Olivia Newton-John.
Ah, you gave it away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, and she's we only joke because she's a big fan. Olivia,
Olivia,
come on.
we love you.
You're our neutron bomb, baby. It's only a joke. So, who is this pillar of white, hateful, country fried rectitude? Why, none other than Oklahoma's own Anita Bryant.
Woohoo!
For anyone who has the great fortune of being too young to know who this hateful old ghoul is,
Like me.
congratulations. Yeah, you're not. You should know.
Okay, I'm just too dumb.
But that's probably it. But to any of our listeners who are familiar with this 1953 white American suburb in human form, especially any of our older LGBTQ listeners, you likely remember this bouffanted witch as the devil, and you are right. So let's talk a little bit about her, Anita. Born in Barnsdall, Oklahoma in 1940, she was raised as a hard-right evangelical in her native Tulsa. Her very religious grandfather encouraged her talent for singing, and she was soon entertaining Sunday services with her peppy versions of hymns and praises to white Jesus.
Everybody loves a peppy hymn.
And as I alluded, she built a little bit of celebrity as a beauty queen and parlayed that into minor stardom with her schmaltzy singing career, and turned that into major celebrity as an outspoken, hateful bigot. An outspoken bigot who gained quite the following, as an unjust universe would have it. And here's the kind of things she did with that celebrity. In 1977, Dade County, Florida passed a law making it illegal to discriminate against gay and lesbian people. You will notice I left out the BTQI parts of the familiar acronym because in 1978, even though society was taking baby steps toward protecting the L's and the G's, it's still a fuck of a long way from even thinking about protecting the B's, the T's, especially the T's, the Q's and the I's.
Yeah.
It still is on the eve of 2020. But anyway, yay, amazing Dade County, Florida in 1977.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, and there was a time when Florida was something other than the insane, methed-out national brother-in-law. So,
I mean, was it though?
at least Dade County.
Well, you can be methed out, and that can lead you to being okay with the gays. It's just a theory.
Dan is saying that meth is the gateway drug to acceptance, everybody. So that you heard it here first.
Get out there and try some meth.
If you hate the gays, try some meth.
Don't take drug advice from a podcast.
Take any advice from this podcast.
So she said of the Dade County ordinance at the time, Anita Bryant did, what these people really want, hidden behind obscure legal phrases, is the legal right to propose to our children that theirs is an acceptable alternate way of life. I will lead such a crusade to stop it as this country has not seen before. That's right, guys. The gays are going to prey on our children, Kennard. Of every homophobic Christian shitbag was Bryant's whole shtick. And just as a gay person, can I say, you keep your shitty kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They're your problem, not ours.
What's amazing to me is that she wasn't even saying the gays are coming to fuck our children, or the gays are coming to convert our children.
Yeah.
All she said in that was the gays are coming to make our children believe that maybe they're not horrible, evil people.
That they maybe have a right to live. So here she is.
And that was what she objected to.
Yeah, well, she's got more. Here she is again expounding on her qualifications to speak knowledgeably on human biology. As a mother, I know that homosexuals cannot biologically reproduce.
Because motherhood
Yes.
qualifies you for
Yes.
that.
And editor's note, actually, yes, we can.
Absolutely
We are
can.
completely capable of
Right.
reproducing. Therefore, they must recruit our children. If gays are granted rights, next we'll have to give rights to prostitutes. Yes, you should give rights to prostitutes.
Wouldn't that be horrible?
And to people who sleep with St. Bernards and to nail biters.
Woo?
Beer?
What?
Here's what I love about this. I mean, on Thank God I'm Atheist, we long ago decided that all slippery slopes eventually lead into the vagina of an animal.
Into bestiality. Or the butt.
Or the butt.
There can be butt stuff.
Into an animal hole.
Yes.
Is the idea. And yes, she went there.
where consent is at best complex.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. Am I missing something about the nail biting?
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Maybe that means something in Barnstead, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
anyway, and she also, as the spokesperson for Florida Orange Juice, also frequently referred to the LGBTQ people as human trash.
Oh, good.
So that's nice. Well,
She could have at least called them like human orange peels or something.
it'd be very on brand.
Just tie it in.
Yeah, it's synergy, corporate synergy. Dade County's minor creep toward Christians being asked politely not to run over queers with their pickup trucks was a bridge too far for Anita.
Yeah.
So she forged a group of concerned bigots, not at all alarmingly called Protect the Children, whose true purpose was to repeal the ordinance, therefore ensuring lovers of Jesus could spit on scared, oppressed people without fear of a misdemeanor citation.
It's a dance as old as time.
And because evil wins more than good does on this unhappy planet, with all the carnivores and the destructors on it, the Protect the Children Crusaders were sadly successful, as they were in getting pro-LGBTQ ordinances removed in St. Paul, Minnesota, Wichita, Kansas, what's up, Wichita, and Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
So I know 1977 seems like ancient history to some, but it was a brutal time for queer people in this country, with the onset of the horrors of the AIDS epidemic and truly despicable people like Anita Bryant having access to power and using it to make the lives of miserable people worse. But just 37 years after that dismal period, marriage equality was declared constitutional, and the increased visibility and acceptance of our trans brothers and sisters is jaw-dropping to any of us who remember the Anita Bryant period.
Yeah.
And in her stupid, vicious way, we have her to kind of thank for this progress, right? I'll tell you why. You see, actually decent people found her form of relentless, retrograde bigotry a bit much, and they came to see the very opposite of her venomous opinions as the decent way forward. What kind of people? People like Ronald fucking Reagan. Such a great friend to the gay community, he waited until nearly 30,000 of us were dead from the nightmarish epidemic of AIDS before he said a single word about it.
Right.
As you know, president.
Statesman, I would say.
He thought she was a bit much.
Jesus.
Bryant agitated for and got a deeply anti-gay ballot initiative on the ballot in California, buoyed as she was by all her hateful victories around the country.
And backed by Big Orange.
Backed by Big Orange. And Big Orange was beginning to have their doubts, but we'll talk about that. So the so-called Briggs Initiative would have made it a crime to ever say anything positive about homosexuality or queer people in California public schools, or even to be queer in the school system, and that would be a fireable offense.
How do you police that?
You Christian kids. They police. Do you think Christian kids aren't policing schools?
So does that mean that you can't say Leonardo da Vinci painted a good painting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as long as you say he wasn't a massive queer, then yeah. Sorry, we're breaking news here, guys.
Right.
Maybe it's too soon.
Spoiler alert.
You guys, sorry.
I've outed Leonardo, and I didn't even ask him. President Jimmy Carter, Governor Jerry Brown, and President Gerald Ford all spoke in opposition to the Briggs Amendment, and so did Ronald Reagan, who was getting ready to run for president in 1980.
Wow.
But his reasoning was that kids angry about bad grades could accuse teachers of being gay, kicking off a sort of witch hunt where straight people, gasp, might get innocently caught up.
Jesus.
But a stop clock can still be right twice a day. So, thanks, Ronnie. The ballot measure...
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Yeah, it's actually true, but that was his only reason for it. The ballot measure went down in defeat, handing Bryant the first humiliation of her crusade. Gay-owned and gay-friendly businesses and people all over the country boycotted Florida orange juice as a result. It's hard to say how big an effect the boycott had on their decision, but by 1980, Florida orange juice had decided that Bryant had passed her expiration date, and she was let go. I did read an article that said that basically their market research had determined that Miss Oklahoma 1958 had limited market cachet in the go, 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 greed is good ethos of 1980.
Right.
But the coincidence of her being let go was taken as an invigorating victory for the gay rights community, and it's become an important part of the narrative of the period.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
Her oranges had gone sour.
they were not producing any juice. That was gross. I'm sorry.
I liked it.
Since 1980 was going to be an epically shit year for the richly deserving Bryant, she shocked her religious supporters and fellow crusaders by filing for divorce.
What?
They couldn't believe her hypocrisy. Remember, guys, when moral consistency in their leaders was something American Christians insisted on?
And no.
No, I don't remember that
I don't
at
remember
all.
that in the slightest.
I'm at 51. I barely do. So good times. Anyway, that was kind of it career-wise for Bryant. Decent people thought she was a hateful relic of an ugly past. And frothing right-wing Christians that used to worship her thought of her as a fallen woman and hypocrite. Too bad, so sad, Anita. But there's one more thing she's remembered for. Remember a minute ago when I said the failure of the Briggs Initiative in California was her first public humiliation? There was another.
Oh, good.
And it was really, really good.
Ooh.
You guys know I love art, right?
Sure.
And we all do. I love all kinds of art, paintings, lithography, sculpture.
Yes.
Walk around an intimidating Richard Serra steel piece if you can. It's glorious. And I love big ideas like Christo wrapping the Reichstag to reveal the rebirth of Germany from the ashes of the past, or Philippe Petit's breathtakingly beautiful guerrilla performance art piece of a high wire walk between the Twin Towers. That's hard to get out. It was harder to get out than it was hard for him to do. So,
Yeah.
all extraordinary. But maybe the greatest artist of the 20th century was the late Tom L. Higgins, who hit that Nazi witch Anita Bryant in the face with a pie at a news conference on October 14th, 1977. It was an absolute masterpiece. You can find the video of the incident online. It is, if you need to pick me up, it's so beautiful. I know we're not supposed to punch Nazis, but this is pieing. This, is that the same as punching? It's giving someone a pie, and that's a nice thing, right?
It's free pie.
It's a free pie.
That is free pie.
So I'll give Anita the tiniest credit for the joke she cracked in the moments afterwards, saying, at least it's a fruit pie. So there's that.
Oh.
See, gay people are fruits.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if that's funny or if did she know that she was making a joke or did she?
It's like when a Bond villain has a good joke.
Yeah,
You're like, okay.
It's kind of impressed. What I don't want to be is as impressed as I kind of am.
If
she came up with that like on the fly, I'm actually
with her face completely covered in pie. Yes, she came up with that on the fly.
wow.
I'm still not going to like her.
Yeah, fuck her.
Okay, well, I think that's the wise choice.
Yeah, fuck her. But here's the thing: Bryant is still alive, living somewhere in fucking Oklahoma. She struggled to rebuild her career in an America growing more and more tolerant and having soured on her vicious brand of Americana. Several attempts at recording albums and doing live shows in Branson, Missouri, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which, Dan, I believe you're familiar with.
I've been there, yes.
Yeah, and a place that is really called Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Pigeon Forge.
Pigeon Forge, I guess that's where they make pigeons, ended in disaster and bankruptcy. So she's now rattling her tin cup as the head of Anita Bryant Ministries International, whose website features several pages titled "Check Back Soon for more information," and a rambling 5,000-word bio page written by a crazy person. So that's great.
Anita Bryant sounds like Anita Paycheck.
Ayo.
Let us leave this awful grifter and fossil from a more hateful age with some lyrics from her number 5 Billboard hit, Paper Roses. Oh, how real those roses seem to be, but they're only imitation. Like your imitation love for me. I thought that you would be a perfect lover. You seemed so full of sweetness at the start. But like a big red rose that's made of paper, there isn't any sweetness in your heart.
Oh.
No, there is not, Anita.
Somebody hit that lady with a pie.
Send that bitch a pie. Anyway, that's Anita Bryant, guys.
All right. Well,
Bye. May she rest in pieces.
yeah, well, she's still alive, Doug.
If you call that living.
Call that living.
All right, let's leave her. Moving on. Uncle Doug.
Uncle Mark.
Despite my obvious overabundance of intelligence, I was not a good student.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, wasn't a good student.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one. Were you a good student, Doug?
I don't think any of the three of us were terribly good students, actually.
I think you were better than me, Doug. But
I don't know, but all right.
I'll bet I had the worst GPA out of high school.
You may have, but I had 5 periods of art my senior year, so I did pretty well my senior year.
See, there you go. I dropped out my senior year. So.
There you go.
You know the only class that has any practical application to my life now that I took in high school? Typing.
That was a good one.
It is.
Keyboarding, it was called back in those days.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it was. Wasn't
And
it?
I'll bet we all learned on typewriters.
I learned on a
for sure.
manual cha-ching,
Yeah.
typewriter.
Yeah.
If you were lucky, you got the one that had the little ball.
The IBM Selectric. When that showed up in my dad's office when I was like 12 years old, I was like, my God.
Oh, my God. We are so fucking old, you guys.
The
anyway,
future is now.
let's, should we dive into my...
Bye, millennial listeners.
Right?
Yeah, what are we talking about?
None of this.
Okay.
We're off of the typewriters and back into the world of the Bible. Because, fellas, back in episode 110, Uncle Doug had a small breakdown recalling the absolutely awful lesson Jesus taught us with the parable of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd do another terrible parable this week and was looking at the laborers in the orchard. I don't know if you guys know this one, but I didn't think Doug would be okay with that. So I decided it's basically the same thing. I'll just really quickly, the laborers in the orchard is just a homeowner, a wealthy guy goes to Home Depot and gets some cheap labor to work in his field for 12 hours for a 12-hour day. They agree on a set amount, and then he sends them out into the field. And then a few hours later, he goes and hires some more dudes and sends them out to work in the field. And then a few hours later, he hires some more. And then even at the 11th hour of a 12-hour day, he hires some more laborers, sends them out into the field. And then at the end of the day, he pays everybody exactly the same amount. And then the first laborers who've been working for 12 fucking hours are like,
No.
can I call bullshit on this? To which the homeowner says, I paid you what I told you I would pay you. I just also paid the guys who only worked 1 hour that same thing, and fuck all y'all.
Yeah, life's a bitch. Suck it.
Also,
That's which is the moral of the story.
yeah,
that
what is the
Jesus-
lesson here? And the guy is both an asshole and an idiot.
Right.
If he's paying people worked 1 hour the same as people that worked a 12-hour
Right.
shift,
In this case,
he's a moron.
In this case, I think, according to most interpretations, that the idea is that even if you convert on your deathbed, the Lord will still give you all of the rewards that somebody who was good their entire life.
And people say Jews are good with money. Like, where does that come from? Where does that even come from? I don't know.
Well, he's a Christian.
It's another lie.
Jesus was the first Christian, and he started a long tradition of not being good with money.
Ah, there you go.
Even if the moral of that parable was that you can you convert and confess on your deathbed,
Right.
That is an immoral moral,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, no, the actual moral of that story, if we were to take it for what it's worth, is put it off as long as you can.
Yeah.
That is clearly the moral of the story, just like the prodigal son.
Yeah.
Just have as much fun as you can. You got until at the last moment. Just don't get hit by a
these
bus.
people that
exactly.
have been miserable their whole lives being Christians,
Right.
and doing all the things,
Right.
go to the same heaven as Kid Rock,
Right.
who on his deathbed, I don't know why I picked him because I hate him, who on his deathbed says, "I love you, Jesus."
Yeah, it's like
Right.
if you fall off a ladder and you
Yeah.
can get "I love you, Jesus" out before you hit the ground.
Sorry.
You're good. Yeah, if Hitler falls off a ladder,
So anyway, by the way, that's the conclusion of those parables. I will point out to you, and we'll learn that parables contradict each other at
Naturally.
times and whatever. But today, I went on a parable hunt, and somehow I landed in Luke. And now I've never read the Bible from front to back because I have ADHD, and it's a terrible book, and I think my head would explode.
yeah.
So it holds a lot of surprises for me. This week's surprise was how many damned parables the New Testament can squeeze into a small space. I was even a little surprised by how weird and bad and nonsensical many of them are. I shouldn't have been surprised by that because, I've read any of the Bible,
Yeah.
but I was.
Yeah.
Anyway, the problem was most of them are pretty short and they don't make any sense, and I didn't know how to present one of them here in a way that was right for our format.
Right.
So I did a quiz.
Ah,
It's
yeah.
a quiz for you guys to make you guys
Get ready
look like
to sit
idiots.
through a quiz with 3 C students.
That's right.
It'll be entertaining.
Why was there a confession about your grades at the beginning of this segment
Hey,
anyway?
you know what?
Because I knew a quiz was coming.
It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, seriously? You didn't understand that?
He's a C student.
Hey, back
It
off.
takes a while to pick up on these things. Yeah. All right. So here are the rules. I'm going to read a bunch of bullshit, and you have to decide whether that bullshit came from the Bible. And be aware, I may have messed with it slightly to obscure familiar references. Or
Okay,
throw you
to
off
protect
scent.
the innocent.
Right, yeah. or whether I just made it the fuck up. Round 1 has 2 parables, and you have to guess which one is real. You should know, and you should know on this one that I made one of these up and then found the other one and was like, "What the fuck, really?"
It's like the same one.
It's like there are several parallel things that happen.
Okay.
They are not the same parable, but there's
Parallel parables.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Probable parallel
A pair of
parables.
a pair of probable.
Yeah.
It's got a parabola. Anyway, which of these is true? Number 1. A Pharisee invited Jesus to eat with him, so he went in and reclined at the table. But the Pharisee was surprised when he noticed that Jesus did not first wash before the meal. Then the Lord said to him, "Now then, you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You foolish people! Did not the one who made the outside make the inside also? But now, as for what is inside you, be generous to the poor, and everything will be clean for you. Woe to you, Pharisees, because you give God 1/10 of your mint, rue, and all other kinds of garden herbs, but you neglect the justice of and the love of God. You should have practiced the latter without leaving the former undone."
I'm going to go true. Is that the question?
Wait. No. Now you're going to hear the second number 2.
Okay.
And you're going to decide which one is which.
Okay,
is the
okay.
true one. All right. Here's number 2. A peddler was selling his wares and was approached by a wealthy young Pharisee. "Sell me a cup and a plate right now," the young man demanded rudely. "I am in a hurry and do not have time to bargain with a poor man, so I will pay you whatever price you ask." The peddler was taken aback by the tone of the young man and refused. "No, I won't sell you these things, though you offer a fair price. I will not suffer that you should treat me this way." The Pharisee demanded again, saying, "You will sell me these things. I have guests and not enough to serve them all. You are wicked to deny me." Again the peddler refused. "Sell me the cup and plate," said the Pharisee, "or I'll call the authorities and they will destroy your wares and ruin your business. But if you sell to me, I will pay double your price." Then the peddler said to him, "I will sell to you, and take only my regular price for the sake of your guests."
Okay.
The theme is Pharisees and plates.
The first one,
I detected that.
I think
I'm not Doug.
Okay, I think the first one is an actual parable and the second one's not. But the problem with the first one is it seems like there's an actual moral to it, and it makes sense, which is a strike against it. Mm-hmm. The second one, you said a young Pharisee?
Yeah.
That makes me suspicious.
A wealthy young Pharisee.
Wealthy young Pharisee makes me suspicious.
I think the first one's true based on several things that I won't expound on here.
You are correct.
Yay!
The first one was from Luke chapter 11, verse 37 through 42.
I thought it was 37 through 42.
Yeah, I knew you would. I kind of figured you had a beat.
Felt like it was kind of in the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go. You're both right on that one. But that was just the warm-up.
Our GPA is 4.0 right now.
So
we should
far.
stop now.
Okay, this one is just true or false. Did I make it up, or did or is it biblical? Okay, Jesus drove a demon out of a man, but some people in the crowd said, "You drove that demon out using the power of a greater demon." Jesus said, "If Satan's demons were fighting against each other, then his power would be diminished. So this must not be the case. When a strong man, fully armed, guards his own house, his possessions are safe. But when someone stronger attacks and overpowers him, he takes away the armor in which the man trusted and divides up his plunder. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places, seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, 'I will return to the house I left.' When it arrives, it finds the house swept clean and put in order. Then it goes and takes 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there, and the final condition of that person is worse than the first."
I walked out of that play in the second act. Like that, and that's what makes me think it's real.
Well,
He was just a terrible fucking storyteller.
exactly. That's exactly. I think it's made up.
I will tell you this. In mine, I tried to approximate terrible storytelling.
Yeah.
All of the ones that I tried to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
And I put literally zero pressure on myself to ever have an actual moral to any of the stories.
Right,
just so
because
that
there
you-
aren't any.
I feel like it's made up, but its incoherence and lack of any kind of structure definitely makes me think it might be
No,
true.
it's a good decoy if it's a decoy.
I'm going to stick with false.
Okay, so we got 1 true, 1 false.
yeah.
Luke! That one was Luke. Chapter 11, verses 14 through 26. The part that I skipped, by the way, and I did reword some of the beginning of it, but the last parts that I read were all directly from the New International Version. And the one part that I skipped because it would give it away was, whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters.
Right.
Which is familiar to a lot of people, but also
Right.
doesn't make any sense and is crazy.
So what is the moral of that fucking parable? If you guard your house but then leave for a while, 7 guys will come in, clean it.
I know there was
And then leave.
there was a whole scene about sweeping.
Well, and I also skipped the part about the fact that the greater demon that they accused him of using to drive out the demon
Forgot
in
about
the
the
first
demon.
Yeah.
was Beelzebub or Beelzebul.
Yeah, how did a cool story about a demon end with sweeping?
Right.
like garbage.
It's so
It's garbage.
confusing.
It's garbage, and therefore true.
I just kept reading these and going, wait, what? Huh?
Yeah.
Half of these, and that's the thing about Jesus's parables, right? They're either painfully obvious,
Right.
Like for instance, I did look at the parable of the Good Samaritan,
Yeah.
but it's literally just the most obvious thing in the world. Who's the nice guy in this story?
Right.
The one that helped.
That helped the guy who'd been burgled and beat the shit out of.
Right.
Yeah.
So, wow, Jesus, you nailed that one.
That's a head scratcher.
All right. We got another which is true. One of these is mine. One of these is the Bible.
All right.
Here we go. Number 1. When Jesus brought them out of that town, one of the company said to him, Rabbi, we have followed you for many miles, but there is little to eat, and we are tired. Jesus answered, There was a man brought before a magistrate for stealing the fruit of his neighbor's garden.
Can you imagine when you're hungry and
Yeah.
this is what you're like? Oh fuck, really?
Yeah, another fucking story.
Oh, this guy.
Okay. The man was brought before a magistrate for stealing the fruit of his neighbor's garden. The magistrate looked upon him, saying, Why have you stolen from your neighbor? The man answered, I have no food, and am very hungry. The magistrate frowned at this, and said to the man's neighbor, Is there not enough that you might share? But the neighbor was angry, and said, Why must I give that I have wrought of my own labor? Is it not mine, though there is abundance? The magistrate thought on this, and said, Let him labor for you in your garden, for as we labor, so shall we eat. It is thus with the kingdom of the Father.
Okay.
That's number 1.
There was a handful of polysyllabic words in there, so that makes me suspicious it wasn't Dan.
Okay, that's probably fair.
Yeah. I think it may be true because it sounds like it's probably the origin of charities making you hear a fucking sermon before you can eat. Right?
Okay, here's number 2.
All right.
Someone in the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, You have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. But God said to him, You fool! This very night your life will be demanded of you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whosoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God.
Okay. Both are actually somewhat coherent.
Yeah.
Is he tricking us?
The second one had a fairly consistent narrative arc through the entire thing, making me think it's probably not real.
I'm with you. I think A is real and B is false.
Both wrong. B is from Luke.
Really?
Luke chapter 12, verse 16 through 21. I did skip the part where the man says to himself, You have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry.
That would have given it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that It's like the 100 monkeys with the 100 typewriters. Like, eventually, there will be a decent story somewhere in eternity.
Accidentally, somebody will he'll trip on his words. And
the 747 will assemble itself.
But what a stupid fucking story. I have too much grain. My barn isn't big enough.
Right.
What's the solution? A bigger barn.
I'll make a bigger barn,
Okay.
and then God's like, "Psych, you're dead. Now who's it for, asshole?"
Well, that's the vanity of having a bigger barn.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
Of harvests.
Yeah.
The vanity of harvest.
The vanity of wanting to not starve to death in the future.
And of feeling good that you actually have more than you need, and hooray for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. This one I'm calling the lightning round. We're going to do fairly quick ones.
Okay.
And it's just a yes or no on all of them. Here we
Okay.
go. He said to the crowd, it starts with the word he said to the crowd, "When you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say it's going to rain, and it does. And when the south wind blows, you say it's going to be hot, and it does. Hypocrites! You know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and sky. How is it that you don't know how to interpret this present time? Why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? As you are going with your adversary to the magistrate, try hard to be reconciled on the way, or your adversary may drag you off to the judge, and the judge turn you over to the officer, and the officer throw you into the prison. I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny."
Oh, these are the short ones, huh?
Yeah.
This is, I did like the explanation of the judicial system in there. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's real.
I'm going false.
It's real.
It was incoherent, Doug.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's number 2. But he looked to them and said, "Behold, which of you will dwell in the room when the Son of Man sits on his throne? I say to you that every shepherd cares for his sheep, and a goatherd for his goats. But though he is vigilant, does he not also eat of his flock, and wear the wool thereof? Who, therefore, is safe?"
I'm going.
See, I think the shepherd's a trick.
I'm going false.
I think you throw a shepherd in there, it's going to get you some Bible authenticity.
Right.
I think it's false.
Dan, chapter 3. That's an Uncle Dan right there. All right.
Nah, the shepherd was too easy.
I didn't get you on that one. We'll
Yeah.
see. Then he told this parable. A man had a fig tree growing in his vineyard, and went to look for fruit on it, but did not find any. So he said to the man who took care of the vineyard, "For 3 years now I've been coming to look for fruit on this fig tree, and haven't found any. Cut it down. Why should we use up the soil?" "Sir," the man replied, "leave it alone for 1 more year, and I'll dig around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then cut it down."
It's like a garden show. Like what's the point of this whole story?
Why haven't you been putting fertilizer around your fucking tree for the last 3 years?
Yeah, why are you mad at the guy who...
Damn idiot.
I think fig tree kind of smells like shepherd.
Yeah. Are you going false?
Going false.
I'm going to go true. Just to differ with you.
Yeah.
Luke chapter 13.
We're at a dead heat now.
All right, here we go. One more in the lightning round.
Is this the tiebreaker?
This is the lightning round. I haven't been keeping track of who's ahead.
We're tied.
Oh, believe me, I have.
Okay, then Jesus asked, "What is the kingdom of God like? What shall I compare it to? It is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his garden. It grew and became a tree, and the birds perched in its branches." Again he asked, "What shall I compare the kingdom of God to? It is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough."
It's too dumb for Dan.
It's too dumb. I can't even take it seriously.
It's really dumb, but I'm going to go with true.
Yeah, me too.
It is true. I don't think I could write something that idiotic. Like,
That's exactly what I thought.
does a
Why
mustard
does
seed
he-
grow into a tree?
Well, I guess.
I don't
Like,
know.
mustard is not a tree, is it?
It's a little bush. I
It's a
think.
condiment.
It's like fucking morons.
Beautiful on bratwurst. The idea of a parable is to take a complex idea and to make it simpler to understand.
Right.
Right, you don't take a
give
simple
you-
to understand idea and make it dizzyingly, narratively complex with footnotes and addenda
Right.
to simple.
Wait. Let me try something on you.
All right.
Imagine yeast in about 60 pounds of flour.
I do it all the time.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
God.
There you go.
Right?
It's a
All right.
transformative thing.
All right. We're going to do one more. We're going to do one more, and this is a which is true.
All right.
All right.
A or B?
Okay.
All right. Number 1. Then Jesus went through the town. Oh, and by the way, I've juxtaposed, so we'll see. Then Jesus went through the towns and villages, teaching as he made his way to Jerusalem. Someone asked him, "Lord, are only a few people going to be saved?" He said to them, "Make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to enter and will not be able to. Once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, you will stand outside knocking and pleading, 'Sir, open the door for us.' But he will answer, 'I don't know you or where you come from.' Then you will say, 'We ate and drank with you and taught in our streets.' But he will reply, 'I don't know you or where you came from. Away from me, all you evildoers.' There will be weeping there and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, but you yourselves thrown out. People will come from the east, west, north, and south, and will take their places at the feet in the kingdom of God. Indeed, there are those who at last will be first, and first who will be last."
That's a true.
Okay, I'm back.
Or, then Jesus said to them, "Suppose you have a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. A friend of mine on a journey has come to me, and I have no food to offer him.'
That's a booty call right there.
And suppose the one inside answers, 'Don't bother me. The door is already locked, and my children and I are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything.' I tell you, even though he will not get up and give you the bread because of friendship, yet because of your shameless audacity, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need. For everyone who asks receives, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened."
I'm going to go true, false.
Yeah, I'm going to go true,
The
false.
first one, either Dan really peppered in the biblical, language.
all the spice.
Yeah, exactly. That's my final answer. True, false.
All right. The answer?
True, false. I think so too.
Both true.
Really?
Both of those are actually in Luke. One of them says once the door is closed, God won't open it, and the other one says once the door is closed, God will. All you have to do is be persistently annoying, and God will open. Shameless audacity is apparently the key to heaven.
Oh my God.
Well, then Christians are doing it right.
Keep annoyingly knocking.
And they're going to heaven.
Literally, that parable just says keep annoying God until he lets you in.
Yeah, because God seems to be a really easily annoyed
He
character.
seems to be very forgiving about it.
Right.
About most things. So,
Yeah.
gosh.
Wow.
So there you have it, boys. I think we've all learned some valuable lessons.
And no wonder I was so terrible in school.
Yeah. Yeah.
My record is unbroken.
Yeah,
I have learned literally nothing except that the Bible doesn't seem to know what mustard is.
and there you have it. All right, well, you're welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that.
And let's move on.
Let's move on.
Moving on.
Let's collect our cash and prizes.
Gentlemen,
Present.
Oh,
the folks out there, they listen to the show, and then some of them, they're not in a position where they can be a donor to the show. That's
No.
fine.
Well, look, almost everybody's in a position to be an organ donor
Sure.
to the show, and you should do that.
Sure, because you never know when your uncle's going to need a kidney.
we are accepting livers.
Yes.
on the
Currently,
How to
yeah,
Heretic.
we're accepting as many as we can get, all for Doug.
Yeah.
But some people actually give us money,
Which is just amazing.
which is awesome. And the best way to show your appreciation to your uncles
Yes.
is to give them money.
And a liver.
So we have some folks to thank, and I would like to thank them now. Thanks so much to Catherine, David, Sam, and Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
You got a job to do, buddy.
Boy.
And that job is to give a heaven to Nicolette.
Well, it's not really a job, Dan. It's a privilege.
It's both.
Yes, it's a job and a privilege. And Nicolette, you are in for a treat.
Woohoo!
Because in a time long from now, when you shuffle off your mortal coil, your generosity to your uncles at the How To Heretic will earn you a place in Trestlemania Infinity. That's right, Nicolette. Whether you like it or not,
I don't think that means anything.
For no reason you can discern, you have been sent to an endless guitar-soloed, pyrotechnic, high-octane, in-your-fucking-face celebration of the biggest, the baddest, the longest, and the raddest celebrity railway trestle bridges from across the ages. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's get ready to level out uneven terrain while supporting tremendous live loads.
Let me tell you, brother.
Wah, wah, wah. So, as we all know, Nicolette, a trestle is a rigid frame used as a support. A trestle bridge is a bridge composed of a number of short spans supported by such frames. Each supporting frame, interestingly, is called a bent. Timber and iron trestles, i.e. bridges, were extensively used in the 19th century, the former making up for anywhere from 1 to 3% of the average of the total railroad's length. Now, many timber trestles were built in the 19th century and early 20th centuries with the expectation that they would be temporary. Timber trestles were used to get the railroad to its destination. Once the railroad was running, it was used to transport the material to replace the trestles with more permanent works. But you already know all this.
Yeah, I mean, you're spouting fourth grade shit right now.
We're not talking about just any boring old trestle. This heaven is a 24/7, 3/6 infinite rager to celebrate the giants of the field. Giants like the Beast of the Blue Ridge, the Kinzua Creek Valley Bridge in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's a gorgeous
Fantastic. Oh my God, but look over there. Boom! When the smoke clears and the lasers start to dance, it's the Goliath of the Gulf, Galveston's mighty interurban trestle. That's literally written there, Doug. Thank you for doing that.
I'm just going to say, is that one the heel? Which one's the face?
So it's a lot to take in, I know, Nicolette. The music, the light show, the screaming fans, all with handmade posters of their favorites. But don't feel too overwhelmed in the presence of such pageantry and such bridge-related celebrity. You've got plenty of time to take it all in. You have all the time, Nicolette. All of it. And this party is just getting started, girl. Holy shit, they didn't, but oh my God, they did. They bought the big bridge from Lethbridge, Alberta's colossal high-level bridge. What? And you were thinking you were going to spend eternity looking at some candy-ass junior league trestle like the Penmainpool toll bridge over the Afon Modwich River in quaint little Wales.
Oh, no, you did not.
But no, Nicolette, your generosity got you a ticket to the big game, Trestlemania Infinity. I know, pinch me, right? Well, get ready to try another big pinch, because the guitars shriek at the appearance of the pride of the San Diego Metropolitan Transit System, the Goat Canyon Trestle Bridge. At 750 feet long and 200 feet high, this all-wooden god, completed in 1933, is here, right in front of you, for fuck's sake. There isn't enough adrenaline in the universe to describe this moment. You've earned it, Nicolette, and you'll get to do it all again tomorrow and the next day forever and ever. These are the stakes of avuncular generosity, people. Enter the kick-ass, over-the-topness of Trestlemania Infinity at your own risk. Nicolette's heaven from which there is no escape and no respite.
Choo-choo!
Uncle Mark is in a dark place.
He's in a weird place.
Yeah, I've had a lot of bridges on my mind.
That was a bridge too far.
Yeah, so you can join the ranks of Nicolette easily enough. You just go to our website, howtoheretic.com.
Yeah.
Go to the Support Us tab. Boom, hit that. There's Patreon. It will tell you what to do. I have no idea. But do it. Send us money. And maybe you can...
You do have an idea. You are a patron of other shows.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
This is not something we just ask for. We are...
That's true. We pay for our content.
And
That's
apparently Uncle Mark is a patron of Rail Talk podcast.
Yeah. It's his favorite.
Yeah. It's like Dan Carlin's hardcore
Talk.
history, but just longer.
Trestle Talk.
Trestle Talk.
Tim.
So do that. Give us 5 stars wherever you can, and we love you.
Bye.
Uncle Dan,
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah, stop it.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Hey, back off. Spread out.
Listen.
Hey, you two. Listen. Don't you two get into this.
You know what? I want to step between you guys and just let's see if we can work something out here.
Fuck.
Uncle Doug, would you like to say anything before we move on?
I would like to say...
I'm going to stop you right there.
Uncle Mark, I forgive you.
Well, I don't know
And
for what, but that's awesome.
let's move on.
Yeah.
Well, I thought today, it being the fact that it's Thanksgiving weekend as we're recording, and we could talk a little bit about, well, let me put it this way. Last week in our fair state, down in Utah County, in a school called Deerfield Elementary School in a town that I had not even heard of called Cedar Hills, which is like a suburb of Alpine for those local listeners.
Does Alpine have its own suburbs now?
Even Pluto has a moon. So it's about 40 minutes south from where we were sitting. A substitute teacher asked her students for what they were thankful for. Most said things like turkey and mashed potatoes, the family dog, or getting a couple days off school, which is obvious and cute.
Yeah.
However, one boy, having very powerful reasons to be thankful, said, "I am thankful that I'm finally going to be adopted by my two dads." You see, this 11-year-old boy
Melts my heart.
Here's the thing. The fact that you're telling me this story means I know it's going to go badly, but right now I'm just going to enjoy that that's adorable.
I'm going to make you feel really bad and then really good about this story.
Oh, okay, good.
So
thank God.
Because if it ended before the next thing...
This is an emotional roller coaster. I can't handle it.
This 11-year-old boy was in the final stages of being adopted by a lovely gay couple. He had been down this road twice before with other families, but for unknown reasons, the adoption didn't pan out. So, yes, very sad, very cute.
Can you take adopted kids back?
I'll just leave them by the side of the road.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
with the others.
But he was now mere days from being, fully and finally adopted by this couple.
Oh, God bless.
And so, yeah, very happy occasion. What was the substitute teacher's response to what in all possible universes is good and heartwarming news? She said, quote, "Why on earth would you be happy about that?" She went on, "Homosexuality is wrong, and two men living together is sin. That's nothing to be thankful for."
Was the substitute teacher named Anita Bryant?
Exactly.
Holy Jesus, that is some. First of all, that is straight balls to say to a bunch of children,
Right.
And when at your job, like. You got to have. I guess she's a
substitute teacher.
And again, the casual cruelty of Christians.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
To not think how unbelievably emotionally violent that is.
Yeah, it is literally
to a child.
just traumatizing.
Like his life is about to change.
Oh,
profoundly,
and
for the better.
I'm going to make it even worse. This piece of shit lectured her class of 30 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids for the next 10 minutes about her views on homosexuality and our permissive culture of sin.
God.
By all accounts, she also tried to blame the child, who, with lowered head, weathered the abuse because he was terrified that this woman's reaction might jeopardize the adoption.
Yeah.
And that perhaps his new family wouldn't want such a worthless troublemaker.
Oh, my
So
God.
he just tried to get through it.
Yeah, of course he did.
Now, this is not a Mormon story, even though I will bet all that I own that this evil creature was Mormon. If I told you this scene took place in basically any rural school in any state of our country, or indeed in any of 100 foreign countries, you would believe me.
Yeah.
This is simply what happens when a society teaches its people that gays are evil. But this woman is
and
not.
that it's your fucking business to say something about
exactly.
it.
To children.
To children.
Like, fuck.
But
To the children of gay people.
Exactly.
Fuck.
But this woman is not the subject of our conversation today, nor should she merit any more of our precious time than this. But this story has a surprisingly happy ending. 3 girls in this class, all of 11 years old, were not having it. They vociferously objected in the moment to the substitute teacher's abuse, and when she didn't stop, the 3 of them marched their asses up to the principal's office and brought the principal back to the room.
Holy shit.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah.
And the principal dragged her ass off of campus and fired her there, right then and there.
Damn.
So there is a good and happy ending.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know anything about Utah County, it's kind of Mordor.
Oh my God.
And it's hyper conservative. It's the most conservative part of the state, of a conservative state.
Of one of the most conservative states in the country.
So these little brave souls
Are amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that in the moment, right, while this woman was hurling this abuse, they stood up for this kid, and when she wouldn't shut up, they're like, "Nuh-uh, we're ending this."
Yeah.
That is a level of bravery. And I mean, the kids these days are not seen and not be heard.
Yeah.
Children anymore.
Nope.
Like, it is a different world.
Yeah.
But still, that is straight up like
baller.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. If you
So proud.
need a lesson in what
allyship looks like, it
There
looks
it
like
is.
that.
It looks like marching out of your 11-year-old classroom and knowing that you need to get to
Putting
do
an end to
something.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love it. I mean, there are
Holy
cruel
shit.
people in the and evil people in the world, but I want to focus on these three girls and what it took for them not to hesitate for a second. Not specifically on them, but about the moment. And I'll kind of lead it off with a couple quotes. Edmund Burke said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." And
Or good little girls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, good little girls. He said men. W.B. Yeats said about the end of the world that, quote, "The best lack all conviction while the worst are full of passionate intensity." And we seem to be living in that world right now.
Yeah.
Back in episode 53, we discussed how to confront people who were pushing their religion or religious views in public or in workspaces, stuff like that. But today I want to have a discussion about how and when to step in if people are being abusive. Basically, when and if you should intervene in a confrontation.
Right.
Yeah.
So my YouTube and Twitter feed is basically just a laundry list of people being shitty to other people.
Right.
Mostly white people calling the police on black people for barbecuing, delivering packages, driving, being in their house, or, existing while black.
Watching television in their house by themselves.
But we've also seen other white people being shitty to Muslims on buses, or white people being shitty to Asians in a grocery store, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not always white people, but I couldn't find any examples of another one.
We are not going to not all white people this thing.
Exactly.
Fuck you, it is all white people.
Oh, man.
It seems more and more that the worst among us are emboldened by the likes of Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, Erdogan in Turkey, Vladimir Putin, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I just want to have a discussion about, we are all probably going to be witness to some kind of abuse or some shitheel doing something shitty in the next few years of our lives. And how do we process when and if we should step in and intervene, and how that intervention should go?
Right.
How do you go through a decision matrix about whether and how you step in? So,
Because this is, look, the truth is, not all white people are shitbags.
No.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I'm not a shitbag, and you're a white person, then
Good.
great. Let's talk about how we can be actively not shitbags.
Right.
And I do
when
think-
we had Tori Glass, our friend Tori Glass, on the show, and she talked about, and it was just before Thanksgiving last year,
yeah.
and she talked about how, specifically white people and white men could use their privilege as a defensive mechanism could cash in some of that privilege in moments like a terrible Thanksgiving where racist shit is going down.
Right.
And rather than trying to cool off Uncle Joe, you go at him.
Yeah.
You challenge him on that sort of thing and protect people, vulnerable types who might be in the room.
Now it may not be so let's be careful about this. I know, Doug, you're going to lead us through this on we'll get to some very specific things that we can do. But I do want to say that, like, it's not always easy. This is not always like
No.
The course is not set.
It's not always so fucking obvious like that teacher.
Right. Well, and even if it is, it's not always obvious whether
What
or
to
not
do.
you can whether or not it's safe or wise for you to intervene.
Exactly.
What the price will be.
Because while some prices should be paid,
Yeah.
while it's worth actually, there's some things where it's going to make you uncomfortable or put you in some sort of bad situation.
It can alter the course of relationships. It can alter the course of
sometimes
a lot of
it's worth it.
Well, and the decision matrix for me.
Yeah.
I'm a straight white guy, very well endowed, pretty beefy. The decision matrix for me to step into a
Is this
confrontation.
the game again? Are we doing false? Are we doing true or false?
Yeah, that decision matrix is very different for me than it is for, say, a black woman or a Muslim or you know what I mean, like,
Or 11-year-old girls.
or 11-year-old girls.
Right.
Like, I kind of feel, for me personally, I'm kind of obligated to step into any confrontation.
Right.
Because I'm not worried about the cops being called.
Right.
That is not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not terrified of it being swept up in a way that's going to be detrimental to
And
me.
even if the cops are there,
Yeah.
like, I'm not worried that I'm going to be shot just for standing there,
Exactly.
or just for
Or
talking to them, or even for fucking yelling at them.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
I have no problem screaming at a police officer if I need to, whereas that would be very unwise.
Yeah.
For a person of color.
But
For a person of color.
There are many ways to intervene, and I'll just give you what I really want to get to is I remember all the times I have intervened, and a few times that it's happened I have, but I'm haunted by the times I didn't.
Yep,
and
same.
one in particular, and it's not a very good one, but I sat on a plane. I was flying back from Atlanta, and I sat down. I was in a window seat. The guy sat down next to me and wanted to make conversation, and I really didn't want to make conversation.
Because you're that guy.
I'm one of those flyers. I don't want to talk to you. I'm sorry. But he, basically it came out within 2 or 3 sentences that can you believe that these black people are kneeling at football games?
Right.
Right. And this guy was he was flying around the country to go to Civil War sites to write a book. He's that guy.
And he saw your whiteness as
precisely
as you were in the same country club as him.
He saw me as white. He's like, obviously I believe that black people shouldn't kneel at a football game. I'm white.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to talk to him, and I didn't want to engage, and I found my way out of the conversation, got my headphones on, and didn't talk to him.
Yeah.
And I have regretted it every day since, because the thing I kind of didn't process was I was thinking I'm stuck in here for 3 hours with him.
He should be
The
stuck in
reality
there
is
with you.
He was stuck in there with me.
Yeah.
And I could have had that guy for 3.5 hours,
Yeah.
but I didn't. And that's
Yeah.
a very minor example, but I regret it.
Well, the truth is, you probably wouldn't have had 3.5 hours of conversation. What you would have had is 7 minutes
A very uncomfortable conversation.
very uncomfortable
And then a
conversation,
lot of silence.
and then the silence you so desire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, frankly, yeah, you really should have jumped in
I
there.
should have said something.
Yeah.
And that's a good. The truth is, what in that situation would you have done any good in the world? Who knows?
At the very least, he would not know in his head that every white person agrees with
Right.
him.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give a story of when I did intervene because I don't have that many stories. Like, this is one of those things where, and look, there is the danger here of this becoming about white heroes, and fuck that shit.
Yeah.
And so, like, look, if we cross that line, okay, feel free to call us out or whatever.
Right.
I will say this: your thing, you're right. Had you spoken up with him, at very least, he might have thought twice about making someone else uncomfortable in the moment. I, at one point, was in Kentucky. I was getting a cab to the airport, and the cabbie was driving along, and he, was talking he was talking shit on other cabbies. This was back before Uber was a big deal. He was just talking shit on other cabbies, and was like, because I had told him about the mess that I'd gotten into trying to get to the airport, to the hotel that I was getting to. The cabbie didn't know where he was going, and he was like, "Oh, blah blah blah," and used a racial epithet about other cabbies, and I didn't say anything, and I just sat there, like, as he was speaking, I'm like, "Fuck, how do I handle this? I can't just let it slide.
Right.
How do I?" And so, like, fortunately, I had a few minutes to think while he blathered on in front of me. And when I finished the thing, I paid him a $20 bill and then asked for full change back, and then said, "I'm not tipping you, and the reason is because you said towel head."
Interesting.
And I just wanted to make it. I just wanted to make the point: don't fucking do this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the same point that you're saying. Like I don't think I'm going to make him not racist anymore.
Right.
No.
But at very least, he will not inflict that on. Like, he saw a consequence.
Racists should be at least nervous.
Right.
Right. They should be nervous that somebody else's white skin, and I guess this guy was a white guy, somebody else's white skin should not be licensed to just pour out all your hate.
Yeah, that old canard where every racist joke starts with looking around the room, right?
Right. Yeah.
But we're living in an age where no one seems to be looking around the room anymore.
Right. And I do want to. This is sounding like I'm tooting my own horn, but it was important to me to say the why, not just to not tip him. It was important for me that he understood the reason.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me to my next point: is if you do decide now. Deciding to engage in a confrontation or intervene in a confrontation is a very personal decision.
Yes.
Because it can lead, you don't know where it's going to go.
And if we have time at the end, I'll talk about an intervention I was involved in that went very sideways.
We don't have time. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm afraid we're going to have to cut you off.
Yeah.
You don't know where it's going to lead. And in our culture, in our country, it can lead to violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can lead to the police being called. It can lead to a million things. So this decision process is very, very personal. But I would say, as our friend Jim would say, what is your goal? What do you want? So you wanted this guy to know that there was a price to be paid for using that language, right? If you're intervening, are you intervening to try and Stop the actions from happening. Are you intervening to try and shame the abuser, which sometimes is a useful thing to do, to teach a lesson? Are you doing it to support the person that's being abused and just let them know they're not alone? Because what you're trying to do as your goal will inform your tactics.
Right.
And remember, everybody's amped up. When you get into a confrontation, everybody's body squirts adrenaline into the system.
Yeah.
Right.
So everybody's amped up.
Yeah.
So are you if you're trying to diffuse the situation, swearing or yelling?
Do you go in hot? Do you go in
hot?
super cold?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you the rational one?
And I
that's
think
trying-
that's an important distinction, because if what you're trying to do is make the person sitting next to you feel less shitty,
Yeah.
maybe screaming and yelling and starting a fight in that situation won't make the person sitting next to you feel less shitty. It might actually make them feel more shitty. So there may be an opportunity for you to say, I'm not okay with how you're talking. Let's change the subject.
Yep.
Or I don't agree with that. I think that's a terrible way to be, but I don't want to keep going with it because I think that, blah, blah, blah. You do need to consider what your goal is.
Yeah.
Before you just launch.
Are you trying to de-escalate?
Right.
And there's other passive ways of intervening.
Right.
You could record it. You could be one of those that just gets out your camera and makes sure that there's a record of this.
Right.
Yeah.
You could.
If somebody's yelling at someone, if a cop is doing something, it's a bad idea for you to intervene with a cop, but it's a good idea for you to whip out your phone and start
exactly. And you can, for instance, if it's a person of color that's being abused, which is very often the case, if cops are called, stay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be there when the cops get there. So it's not just the two people.
Right.
The white guy and the black guy in this confrontation.
The MAGA motherfucker and some poor kid.
You're a witness and say, hey, I saw this.
No, that's not how it went down. I witnessed this whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a whole panoply of things you can do to engage, and and it's just having been through this, as we all have, we've all witnessed shitty behavior. There is a real fear and terror that exists there because you don't know where it's going to go.
Well, and there may be moments when it's not worth engaging the other person. If you're walking down the street, and your gay friend is with you, and someone yells "fag," it may not be worth it to get into a fight with that person.
Yeah.
But you could be there to comfort your friend or whatever. Like it's hard to know what the right thing is. You have to judge that for yourself. But there's a lot. I mean, you can yell asshole back, but
sometimes helping a person walk away is also an intervention.
Yeah.
Let's just get away from here.
Yeah. Let's go find a place where it's not full of assholes.
Yeah. Well, let's hear your story of a
Okay, so I was in my house, heard some screaming outside, and it was, there's different kinds of screaming, and this was bad screaming.
Right.
Because I live across from a park, and sometimes you hear children playing, so you get used to screaming. But anyway, this was bad screaming. So I go outside. There's my neighbor. There's a woman about my age. And there is two white dudes. One of it, my memory swears he had a MAGA hat on, a red MAGA hat. And there were three black teenagers. And one of the black teenagers was on the ground.
Oh, boy.
And a lot of screaming was going on. And my neighbor was in between these two parties. So I go running across the street because I think they're going to get my neighbor's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And so I go running across the street. The guys, luckily, they see they don't know I'm a big old fag, but they see a white guy running across this man.
Right.
Running across the street. They took off across the park. So
which guys?
The white guys. The men who were clearly in the wrong here.
Right. Okay.
And they ran off across the park. I'm trying to get from my neighbor what's happened. And these kids were on the ground are Somali kids. There's a kind of a Muslim community center near me that go to this Somali Muslim community center. The girl was wearing a hijab.
Right.
Black kids. She's screaming on the ground. So my neighbor's trying to pick her up. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. My neighbor says that the white guys said, "We kill your types here. You're not welcome." And the girl got in their face, and he punched her in the mouth. So I'm trying to, make sure these kids are okay. So I said, well, I'm going to call the cops. So I called the cops, and the boy was like, please don't, please don't, please don't.
Oh, man.
And all of a sudden 911 picks up. And I'm like, and I'm like, I got to call you back. They're like, no, we're calling you back. And I hung up the phone, and my phone starts ringing, and the boy's like, they're teenagers. He's like, we've been drinking.
Oh, boy.
He's like, we don't want the cops. Please, we don't want the cops. And I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, do I chase the guys that did this through the park? and they were kind of long gone, and I said to these kids, I'm like, well, let me walk with you to wherever you're going, right? So that you don't feel under threat anymore.
Right.
And the girl's screaming and crying, and they're just, I'm just another fucking white guy.
Right.
Right? And so they're like, no, we don't want you. We don't want you. And it was an attempt at some kind of intervention.
Right.
But it was just shit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, at least maybe seeing me, the guys decided it wasn't worth it to continue this anymore.
Right.
But everybody just kind of walked away from it like,
Feeling
fuck.
lame.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but maybe there was value to me running outside.
Yeah.
You know,
and the thing, the unpredictableness of this is part of the point.
Yeah.
Those 3 11-year-old girls didn't know how that was going to end.
Right.
Right. But they did, and it worked out very well.
Yeah.
But not every confrontation. In fact, I would venture to guess most end up with everybody feeling really shitty.
Yeah.
And nasty, and so
Yeah.
that has to be.
I think that's one of the what your story points out is an interesting thing, which is that like we can't, in our zeal to try and be helpful and to try and parlay our privilege into something that can be used for someone else's benefit, we can be overzealous.
Right.
And can
If the cops had come, I can't guarantee what would have happened to those 3 kids.
yeah,
Right.
but maybe maybe the truth is that they might have been much more they probably would have been more interested in an assault than they would have in some underage drinking.
You never
Yeah.
know.
And very bad Musliming, if we're going to be honest.
Right. And then their Muslim parents are going to come
Yeah.
and realize they've been drinking, and there's a whole nother sideways
Yeah,
fucking
who knows?
situation, right?
Who knows? But the point is, if your help is unwanted, then understand that and fucking back off.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's that element to it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's none of this is easy.
Yeah.
But I think it is important that those of us who can commit to being helpful people in the world.
And it's not just white men, because that's
No.
not what this is about. But
It's not.
the presence of an older woman, an old lady or an old man,
Right.
in a situation like that can change the dynamic.
Exactly.
Because, unless you're a true psychopath, you're not going to hit this old woman.
Right.
Right. You're not going to hit this old man.
Right.
You're not going to hit a child unless you're a
Right.
crazy person. So anybody has the moral authority to do this sort of thing if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out sort of where your parameters are.
And that's that's exactly right. So I've gone through the live shooter training with the local SWAT team.
Oh yeah.
It's a class. It's not like you do anything physical
For your business.
for my business, and then I teach that training to my business, the people in my business, like what do you do in case of a live shooter, active shooter, and the first thing you need to do is think about the fact that it can happen,
Right.
and internalize the fact that it could happen,
Right.
Yeah.
So I think for us and our listeners, like, you watch all those YouTube clips. What would you do in that situation?
Yeah.
How would you have helped?
Ask yourself some questions.
Yeah. Where are you willing to go? Where are your boundaries? Where are your parameters?
Yeah, I think that's good. Like actively watching those videos instead of passively watching them and being outraged by them.
Kind of role play, yeah.
Actively watch them and go, where would I be if I were in this scenario?
What would I have done?
How could I have made that better?
And if it is like, for instance, an active shooter type situation, it may just be run and hide.
That's the number one piece of advice: is get out.
So don't. I mean, it doesn't mean how can I be a hero,
Right.
but it does mean. But it is a good way to sort of say to yourself, like, what could I have done that would have kept all as many people safe as possible, including yourself.
And a perfect example, this happened just yesterday or the day before. There was a crazy person with knives on London Bridge.
Yeah.
And some people fucking stepped up.
I hate to correct you, but it's Tower Bridge.
It was a Tower Bridge?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was it? No, it wasn't the Tower Bridge.
I think it was
Tower
London
Bridge.
Was
Pretty
it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, I mean, I know that lots of people call the
Exactly.
Tower Bridge the London Bridge.
Not the point of the story.
There was this bridge in London, and somebody had a narwhal tusk, and I don't know what the fuck was happening.
Yeah, three guys.
But, people they gamed it out in their heads in 2/2 of a second.
Yeah. Right.
And decided to do something, and it could have gone completely the wrong way.
They could have died.
They could have died.
But I mean, that's an extreme example.
Yes.
But I do think that more and more we're seeing Cops do bad things
Look,
to people.
if
people
everybody
do bad
had
things to people.
narwhal
Yeah,
tusks,
if you have access to a narwhal tusk while you're in the situation,
if we limit narwhal tusks, only bad guys will have narwhal tusks.
That's right. The only way to stop the bad man with a narwhal tusk. Yeah, just start carrying one around like Gandalf. Anyway.
and what happens when the narwhals attack?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
At least they'll be tuskless.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of it. I just wanted to have a little discussion about the increasing number of shitty people and their
Well, and the increasing number of phones to record them too.
also that.
Yeah. So be like an 11-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And if you see something, say something.
If you can aspire to be as brave as those girls were, you should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
All
that's
right.
it.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Doug. Now we all feel a little bit scared and like we probably
a little bit on alert.
There you go.
we're all superheroes.
Well, with that, now acknowledging that we three are superheroes, let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's Barn Burner of a show.
Well, we'd love to hear from you. If you know anything about trestles, send us an email at howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you're a Nazi that loves orange juice, send us a voicemail about it at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986, or yell at me at Twitter, on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
And thanks to our awesome patrons.
And thank you to the dearest Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in.
Bye, friends.